Hi, everybody. This is Max Farrow. This is Dex, the weekly wrap-up, sort of with Max Farrow. Also with Mike Ficca. I forgot to write Mike's name in here. Let's see if should I do that here? Let's see. And
Hey, everybody.
Ficca. Hello. Your name's in the lights. All right. So today is going to be really about a little bit of you. A lot of us, a little bit of you. We're going to talk about some things that's very important to about the process. I'm going to sort of surprise Mike here with a few questions. Again, more about your mentality, more about where we're going and what we're doing, and then you'll sort of get a feel of that as we go in. We normally have a weekly wrap up. We haven't had one for a little while. And we used to do it where we told you the success rates of the signals and all that stuff, and we're eventually going to get back to that. But I wanted to kind of give you a bird's eye view of a few things as I'm going to kind of show you a few things as we go here. But let's get started. All right, risk and disclaimer. You know it. You know the drill. Education and trade assistance only, and all results may vary. Topics: the big questions. It's sort of self-explanatory. We're just going to go down that road. All right. So the big question, I don't know if you can see the screen, Mike, is what motivates you, Mike, as a trader?
The constant knowledge that I'm receiving, the striving to do better every day, even through tough conditions like the news and different things, and it's a drive inside me that I want to do better and better.
Right. So this drive that you've gotten, have you always had the drive as far as a business person? Or?
Yes, in everything I've always done, I've always strived to be better in what I do, and I'm constantly, reading on the topics, and I always wanted to do better.
Mm-hmm.
It's always something that drives me. Sorry.
Do you have something that you particularly do that motivates you when you say if you're in a either bad mood or get you going in the wrong frame?
If I'm in a really, really bad mood, I watch the Blues Brothers. Believe it or not, I'll go and put that movie on, the Blues Brothers or Animal House or something like that, and or I'll just go out and see my parents or something like that. Just something that uplifts my spirit.
Right. I guess for me, what motivates me as a trader is I'm sort of the same way. I have to kind of recondition my mentality a little bit, but where I find myself being the most motivated is to build and help others. That's me though. As a trader, I'm always looking at the bottom line of how can I make this even more consistent for myself and more disciplined. Am I doing the right thing here when I'm going to trade? Have I it's almost like a court case, right? You have to make an argument on getting into that signal or that trade or that process, and all the variables have to line up, right? You have to say that, you're going down your flow sheet. What motivates me is the discipline, because I'm not the most disciplined person in the world, but when I do discipline, I do it right. when I trade with the discipline, I follow a flow. It's just not some haphazard. Let me see what happens if I get in with this number. Data is always following, So I think what motivates me is the thirst for knowledge and building, and because it's every day that I'm still here and above the drawdown, I'm winning. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the next question is how do you deal with your losses? Because you get some losses, you get into a drive of losses every once in a while. How do you physically deal with them and mentally deal with them?
I basically curse and yell for about 10 seconds and move on. Right. Seriously. You can't let it get you, just like the wins. I'm not too high on the wins, and I'm not too high on the losses. Even if there's a series of losses like I've noticed lately, I just chalk it up to that's the way the market is right now. And stop and go on later. That's it. Otherwise, you'll literally go nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think where most people kind of starts to go down to is that, like I've said in the past, they have they have a group of wins. They do 4 or 5 wins, and then they lose 3 in a row, right? And then they begin to question themselves. I find that yes, you have to question, but only question, did you do something wrong? You could be upset, you could be frustrated. I don't even get to that point now where I don't even think I'm frustrated at the losses anymore. I think what I do now is I sort of expect them to be there. Do I want to see them all the time? No. But a loss in trading is not a failure. It's not it's, and I'm especially learning that now, dealing with even more Forex trades and spread trades, is that the idea of the loss is definitely there. It's just calculated risk at this particular point, right? Like, trading to me is almost like the baseball analogy. You're going to get up there, you're going to swing, and sometimes that pitch comes across a little bit too fast and you swung too early and you strike, right? Whose fault is that? Is it that you suck as a batter, or is there a really good pitcher? And the pitcher doesn't really matter at this particular point. It's still a strike. It doesn't matter if you made a mistake at that point. Were you swinging with the wrong end of the bat? That's probably the only mistake you could probably really do when you're batting, that leaning in too much, making small mistakes here and there. You can't microanalyze it. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. You brush it off, take a deep breath, and swing again, right? And to take this baseball analogy even further, the idea of when you do get a hit, right, and things are going good, the ball's in the air, you get to the base, and then last second somebody fucking catches it. So you can think you got this thing won. You get it on, and this is where the last second loss comes in, right? I should write a book just that, called The Last Second Loss, because you know how many people out here, this loss in the last 30 seconds, it's true, right? And I think those losses are the worst. And I used to see this all the time in less than reputable companies. You would be, your trade would be right around here. All of a sudden, because you got it from for a buy, and you're just off to the races. You're like, yeah. So you're leaning back in your chair, you're loving life. You're like, man, I'm so good at this. And here's the expiry. And then all of a sudden it goes, and you're like, wait a minute. What would you say? Shady Nadex, or you would say something like, hey, this company is this company's a scam. There's something wrong with this company. So I've watched this happen myself. I've watched it happen with hundreds of other traders, and they all say it on their journals too. Lost in the last second. I think when you pick a trade and it goes immediately against you, you can have all kinds of justifications, if you will, on why, hey, I think it just went wrong, and just something happened, there was this news, there was a rogue candle, you have all these great excuses, And the toughest loss for me is when it does this, when you're up in the moon and then it goes like this, right? Because when it comes down to it fails right from the beginning, or it doesn't work out right from the beginning, there's no choice for you to go woulda, shoulda, coulda, right? Except one, which is right here, like, maybe I should have went the other way, right? But here, you're like, I could have scalped out here, or here. And you start giving this justification, that if it does that again, I'm gonna scalp it out. But is this part of loss? Is this part of a true loss of a system? Does this normally happen? And the answer is yeah. Now, if it happens all the time, if it happens 7 trades out of 8 or 10 or what have you, if it's happened 70, 80% of the time, you better look at the broker. First off, look at the broker you're on. If you're trading, of course, you shouldn't be trading overseas binaries if you're with us right now. But if you're trading Nadex, and this is happening all the time, you have to ask yourself, are you getting in something that's a little too close? Did you push the deal? Did something happen? But on longer term trades, more macro trades, this doesn't happen anymore. There used to be this thing that brokers used to do, and it was actually, they called it risk management as well. And they would get you into a trade, and they would whiplash the market value on their thing, right, on their software, and it would go like this. Or if you were in the opposite direction, it would go like this, right? I always thought, never trust, if you're going to work with a broker, right? Don't go into the broker system to use their charts to select their trade. And don't look at their network of, like, there's this one company that I'm working with right now that has suggested
Yeah.
ideas for trading, right? And you're like, wait a minute, I'm on the broker's website inside their system, and they're telling me what to trade, and they use a market maker basket, right? They use a market maker process, which means it's a market maker versus you, right? And they're giving me suggestions on how to trade to play against them. Maybe I'll do the opposite of everything they tell me, and I might win, right? But then you're not. Then you're thinking, well, wait a minute. What if they're telling me to do it that way, so they know I'll do it in the opposite, and and then you go down that road, right? So I handle losses sort of like you handle losses. I'll get mad at it. I'll punch it in the face. I'll close an eye. I don't even really think I get to that level anymore, to that, getting too upset, but I take a deep breath and I go into the next trade. It becomes a number on a page, nothing more, nothing less. And I think once you get to this point, you now have a maturity about you as a trader. Do you see that in the difference of your guys in the 5-minute system?
Yeah, there's still some guys that if they lose a lot in a session, they still get upset. But it's normal, it's usual.
Hey, absolutely. And this isn't about belittling anybody who still gets upset about losing, but you will find that those that become very successful at surviving the drawdown begins to give less weight or baggage to the loss itself.
Right.
So that's, even if it's like, because we had this one day and it was terrible. It was so terrible. I felt so bad for so many people. They were really getting into the dailies. The dailies had been kicking ass for like 3 months. There were some even success rates in there that were close to 100%. It was amazing, right? But then there's one day on a Thursday afternoon. I remember. Oh no, wait. It was a Monday. It was a Monday morning,
February.
or Monday evening, and they died. Almost everyone in one session died in the U.S. session. Something happened. It was a perfect storm. Like there was 3 bull news right at the release that tricked it on going and up, and then as it was coming back down to regulate because it was originally going down, everything and its mother came out at 10:30 and pushed this thing way back up again, or I'm sorry, in the opposite direction. And just forced it down because it was for a buy. Okay, it got pushed up, got a signal for a buy, and it just pushed everything out. And I think what had happened is that because it got pushed up in the signals, everything was going good. Everybody was like, this is great. I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to put 2 extra contracts on. They started making all these justifications in the process. And then it completely failed within the last half hour, 45 minutes of the trade. Something that's very rare on a daily. If it's going to lose, it's going to lose in the beginning. You know what I mean? And we got everybody and their mother in the chat room going, I just lost $300 and I just did this. And it's completely understandable. This is your money you're talking about, right? But the signals are just that. They are a suggestion to go and take the trade. And here's where you could trade at, but you stand a risk to lose. 96% success isn't 100% success. So you still have an opportunity to lose. Now, as an owner, somebody who built the algorithm for this system, you can't understand how frustrating it is to me to hear other people get hurt with this, right? I'm not frustrated at them. I'm frustrated at me. So when you lose, I feel I lose, right? When I see people in there really hurting and struggling with the process, but yet I'm still doing pretty good, I start to question myself even, like, wait a minute, why? I almost have like survivor's guilt, right? At that point. It's like, wait a minute, why am I surviving a drawdown? Why am I still doing good and other people are losing? And I forget there's a tremendous amount of growth that I had to go through to get to here. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Next question. Ooh. This is a big one too, because I think that it's a tough question to answer because most people think reward is financial or present or something of that nature. A reward can be many things. Mike, how do you reward yourself?
I'm the wrong person to ask about this, Max, because I reward myself by helping others do what I'm doing. I mean, I have that opportunity with the company to do that, and I trade with a lot of people, to show them what I'm doing, and you get the aha moment after aha. As soon as I hear aha, I know that's my reward. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, then that's how you reward yourself.
Yes.
And that's one of the most important things, is that Mike doesn't use a financial gain or a present gain or something of physical nature to reward himself. It's a mentality. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of life for him.
And a meatball.
And a meatball. So that was the whole physical thing. And his mom's meatballs. Every time I do something good, I'm going to eat a meatball. That's a lot of meatballs. This is really important for a lot of people, because they forget that during your journey, during the promise of, where are you going? How are you becoming more successful? What do you want to become? Okay. In that journey, most people start out and you go, all right, here's my journey all the way over here, and say this is a year, right? This is a year of work. And it will take a year's worth of work for you to become very, very good at trading and being able to get to some of the mentalities you're trying to reach. This is what I'm seeing. But you start on day one, and of course you don't, hey, I just bought the system, I'm going to buy myself a brand new car as a reward. That's not what you're going to do, right? But at each milestone you set for yourself of, I want to learn the system. I want to train in the system. I want to associate myself with other people that are like-minded. Each one of these has its own reward base. When you learn the system, you should congratulate yourself. It's not easy to stay focused and disciplined. Do you realize at the end of every webinar, I say thanks to everybody and ask them to trade well, as a reward to myself, to remind myself that it takes effort for people to get through the webinar, to sit and listen to a webinar. Some do talking, and sometimes we're not with the best English, not with the best, the best jokes or the best analogies, but it takes time and energy to get through, to show up to a webinar, to be on a page, to listen to a video, to watch the training. Some people forget that it takes effort to get there, so I thank them for that, and I give the consumer, the audience, that individual, a reward for doing what he's doing or she's doing to get to that point. You have to congratulate yourself as well on jobs well done at each one of these milestones, okay? Because it's very important for you. Once you start training in the trades and you start getting to a certain level and you get to that consistency, reward yourself by allowing others to know what you're doing at that particular point. Some people in our lives like to be like that social vampire that gets into your life every once in a while and brings in the negativity and sort of vamps you out, Even if it's a post on Facebook, even if it's a handwritten letter to your future self of, hey, thanks for taking the time to make this work. Not a thanks to me or to Mike or to anybody else, but a thanks to you. You have to reward yourself for what you're doing to make yourself successful. Because I only have a small part in it. I'm only handing you the hammer. I'm not giving you anything else other than some few words of encouragement every once in a while and some direction to go with. You physically still have to do it. I can build a really nice car, but if you drive it into a wall, that's really on to you, or if you can win the Indy 500 with it. So the point is, your skill, your reward. And that's what you got to get yourself to now. Mike, I think you've done a very good job of doing that. With the ability to say that, as a reward to you, because it makes you feel good when you help other people, right?
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
Yeah. So I think for the most part, most of us want to reward ourselves with financial gain. And that's where you're really getting to here eventually. But let me tell you, this doesn't become a reward. This becomes like almost a justification of why you've done it all, is to get to these levels. But this isn't a destination. This isn't a single destination. Why? Because as soon as you get there, life is still going, right? It's the market. Folks, your life is the market. Your life looks like this, doesn't it? You got these highs and lows and these valleys and these voids of your life that sometimes you may think you're doing really bad. You may think that this is a great look, right? Like this is where I started, this is where I'm heading to, and this is where I am right now, right? But when you were right here and this stuff was happening to you in this negative little downturn here, where were you mentally? You were like this. This is the market. This is your life. So to stand back a little bit and to get this called Get Macro. Get macro and really look at your life from this perspective. And what are you doing? What are you doing to get to these high points are only as good as you allow them to be when you're in your lowest. Okay? Because this stuff's going to bounce if you let it. If this stuff happens to you, the time it takes you to go from here to here to condition your mind to say, don't let this hit you. Stay strong, keep going. This is controlled by your discipline. You understand? And if you can control your discipline in these low points, these high points are going to be that much more obtainable. And then once you get to this point, you see, this isn't, like I said, a destination. It is only the next high or low. You understand? Because there's only so much further you can go. And the further you go back, the further you go out in the look of your life, the more room you got to advance, right? Because if I look at this, where do I go from here? I run out of page, right? But if I look at it like this is the actual what I just wrote, here's so much more. I'm looking more macro on it every single day. Now, it may not look like you're still advancing. You might be doing one of these numbers, right? Just kind of going sideways. You're just sitting there. But you've gotten to a level, right? And this is where you want to be. Now your justification is your discipline is just maintaining and keep building. And if you want more, you got to push harder to get to another level. And it's the same thing that the market does to you every single day. My final thoughts for today for all of you is one is build your plan. Most of you have one. It might be that I want to make that next level. I want to learn, I want to train, I want to get. You may not micro build your plan, you might macro build your plan, but your dailies are still kind of all over the place. One thing that I had a hard time learning, maybe Mike, you have this too, is to know your limits. I mean, you're a beast, Mike, when you work. I mean, you put so much time and effort into it. And I mean, I know, listen, I get messages from Mike all the time. He does DJ work over the weekends, and he does these things like 15-hour shows. It's like, I'm completely blown away by your dedication to your craft. You know, that, and he goes, just did 7 hours, I got 8 hours left. I'm like, most people don't do that in a week, let alone anything else, right? I know he was doing, like, you were doing a Polar Bear Express or something happened, yeah. And you were doing like 47 hours. I'm like, what? How did you do so many hours in a? And
it's every year we do that down in Seattle City, New Jersey, and then I get to also volunteer my time to DJ the Autism Walk, which is another give back that right. I do when I DJ. I do stuff with the American Cancer Society and different things. So again, it's always good to give back. But those, I love doing those long shifts because it only happens like 4 or 5 times a year, but it's a lot of fun.
Right. And I think that's where, most people, they tend to see other people that are putting in 10, 20, 30 hours in during a week. And that may not seem like a lot to most, but when you got a full-time job, that's a hell of a lot, right? When you're trying to survive, to pull in the funds to put bread on the table, to figure stuff out, to keep stuff going, you better believe that every moment that you do is very important. So you have to know your limits. Building your plan to get there is one thing, but you got to know where all the stops are along the way. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of make the mistake of, they come on and they spend their $97 or their $147 and they buy into the program and they don't plan. They just come in, they read, they watch a bunch of videos and they try to do a few things and something doesn't work and they skip because they haven't created a plan. They haven't created a thought behind it. And they don't know their limits.
I'm sorry. It's just funny when you were saying you're working for yourself. This is your business, right? When I've been doing this a long time as a subcontractor, and I know you have as well, Max, working for yourself. When you actually work for yourself, when you work for somebody, you hate your job, or you oh my God, I got to go work for 8 hours. When you work for yourself, you work 15 hours. You work 12 hours, and you don't even think about it. You really don't because you're working for you. Your commute is 30 steps from your bedroom to your living room. You know what I mean? Or your office. It's great.
I came up with a statement a long time ago. Self-employed mentality is the only mentality in the workforce that leaves a 40-hour work week to go work an 80-hour work week and say that I'm happy.
It's true.
You know, somebody asked me the other day, you know, how many hours did you do this last week? I said, well, I put a half a week in. And they're like, yeah, I only worked about 20, 30 hours. I was like, no, I did 49 hours last week. And I just only put half a work week in because I was on vacation. And they're like, that's a vacation? And I'm like, well, yeah, but normally I'll work anywhere between 85 to 90 something hours, it feels like, you know, but
Yep.
it's tough because I'm working 15, 16 hours a day, you know. And
Yeah, and then when you get those days where you go ahead, Mike, go ahead and take tomorrow off. Well, what the hell am I going to do? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Like, Mike has been working with the console Something Fierce, and he controls my schedule too in there. And he goes, Max, I'm going to give you the next couple of days off because you got to get some stuff done. And it's like, I got so much work to do, but if you fill a gap for me, I mean, if a gap opens up for me, do you know what happens? You know, I got all this work here, and I have all this work I have to do over here, and there's like zero work to do in here. This is what happens. I fill it full of work. I can't help it. I'm a workaholic. I've said this before. I can't seem to do it. My family has to surprise me and like whisk me off to go do something. And this just brings me to my next statement. And this doesn't just go by my Facebook rant that I have earlier, but it is really, don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of getting in there and doing something and going like this because maybe it wasn't followed correctly, maybe a really bad string of market trades or what have you, right? Failure, and here's what something I put on Facebook. Failure isn't the opposite of success. Okay? It's a part of it. It's the necessity to obtain it, but also to keep it. Do you understand? If you've never done anything, if you've worked hard to get to some place and you failed before you've gotten there, right? This is your destination. You failed before you gotten there. The next time that you try to do it, you know what you failed at, right? So maybe you can get a little bit closer. And if you fail again, it doesn't really matter at that point. When is the failure truly a failure? Is when you never try again. When you give up and you walk away from it. But even then, that failure of something that you tried and you tried and you tried and you couldn't succeed isn't failure. It's experience. Did you lie? Did you cheat? Did you hurt people? And if you didn't do those things, if you worked hard, if you kept your nose to the grindstone, you worked hard, and you tried your best to make things work, that's not failure. Okay? Now, if you're trying to get to some place that you're trying to become successful and you failed along the way, when you finally obtain your goal, you know what it is not to have it, don't you? Mm-hmm. You know what it is not to wake up and have that particular success staring you in the face, because that pain, because while you're working to obtain it, that pain lets you keep it, and you'll never want to let it go. So you're going to work as hard as you can to keep it. So if you didn't have that failure, you wouldn't know what it was not to have it. I want to thank all of you and those that are watching after the fact, those that are in the room, those that are watching this after the fact, for getting to this part of the video. And to Mike Ficca for being here with me today and being a constant, ever professional and a trusted partner and friend.
Thanks, Max. Always great to be here.
Great. For everybody in the room and everybody after the fact that's watching this, we have a lot of things happening with this company. And I really do hope that you stick it out, stay strong, and keep working hard to get to your success, because you don't want to be without that success. Because we're getting the things that are going to make you all very, 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 very happy. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen over the next week. Mike, thanks a lot for being here. Everybody else, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. And as always, trade well.